All right. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders, GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great example towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And what I want to get into tonight, dealing with understanding, the Cornelius story. His brothers, have been responding, all right, to the false, breakdowns, done by HOI, all right, who pretty much, when you try to make Cornelius to be another nation, you're pretty much opening the covenant, unto heathens, all right, and which we know the scriptures, all right, don't speak of that, man. And at the end of the day, we're not here, to be pissed, at Jake, because Jake got to play their role. Somebody got to be the false prophet. Somebody, got to wax worse and worse, as the scriptures say, But we're just here to give sound doctrine, to the serious-minded, hopeful elect, So what we're gonna do tonight, we're gonna go into a little bit of history, because one thing about it, you have to understand the backdrop of what's going on. When you read the New Testament, you have to understand the history that led up to the New Testament. You have to understand the geopolitics and what was going on, all right, that had Jake pretty much mingled in, all right, with the heathen, especially the Greeks, and then eventually the Romans. Because one thing about the Roman Empire, oh, Salaki, what you got to understand is the Roman Empire, they went completely just destroy, another empire. They would absorb it, you see, and make them tributaries to Rome, and they will utilize the men. You see, Rome pretty much perfected having you in slavery with the thought that you wasn't in slavery because you still could enjoy the benefits of Rome. You see, just like America. America has the illusion as if we're not in captivity because we get to enjoy the certain benefits of being America, but it's captivity. You see? So when you read the scriptures, especially during the time of Acts, it's nothing but, America all over again. All right. We was Cornelius. When you look at Cornelius, it's nothing different than having a Jake, police chief. All right, it is no different. It's not a big complex thing. It just America is more modernized than ancient Rome, but it's the same system. It's the same setup. All right, which we're gonna get into it now. What I want to do, get a few scriptures first, and then I got a video I want to play. I'm gonna cue the video up, you know. But yeah, you gotta understand the backdrop. You gotta understand, history. You gotta understand how the Roman Empire got down. And ultimately you gotta understand, prophecy, man. You have to understand prophecy. All right. This ain't the time, all right, to have a face value, understanding of the scriptures, man. You know. And like Elder Apostle Bar said, man, you can't be, lazy, all right, when it comes, to the scriptures now. Let me cue this up. I'm gonna start off with
they thought to be
all right. Hold on. All right. So let's start off with a few precepts, and then we're gonna get into the video. And we're gonna get some more precepts. After that, we're gonna deal with the history. Now, when you go into simple scriptures, simple scriptures. Now, when you go into Deuteronomy 28, all right. And go to Deuteronomy 28:64. All right, now this is Deuteronomy 28:64. Now, what is this? This is a punishment, one of the punishments for our disobedience, And when you read it, what does it say? Deuteronomy 28:64. And the Lord Yahweh Shah shall scatter thee among all the people, all right? I mean, all nations, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And when you get into the time of Cornelius, all right, Jake had been, scattered several times over and intermingled with these heathens and serving other gods. You see, this prophecy came to pass, and you can't ignore this in the scriptures. And when Jake was scattered among these heathens, you see, they wasn't just there. And one thing about Jake, when you give Jake, you give Jake, when you scatter Jake, you put Jake in different circumstances. Jake gonna rise to the top. You're gonna have a few Jakes that's gonna rise to the top just because how the Lord blessed us to be, man. You know, you put Jake in these different empires. One thing about it, even though the Most High put us in a lower state, we still the sons of God, and we have a particular skill set that no other nation has. All right, and Jake gonna rise through the ranks. Jake's gonna be beneficial to these heathen nations, man, and that's what we see with Cornelius. You know, you had the Ethiopian eunuch. And he was a treasurer for the queen. He was a Jake, you know, but he was a treasurer, all right, for the queen. Because wherever you put Jake, you have particular Jakes that gonna have these skill sets and they gonna rise up in society, man. That's just what it is. You see? Colin Powell, and if you brothers have any more examples, but that's how Jake get down, man. Jake gonna rise all right to the top, man. Jake gonna make it work. So it was promised that we will be scattered, man. Just like it was promised we'll be gathered, but we got to deal, with us being scattered. When you get that in the book of Tobit, let's get the book of Tobit. when you get so like I think the book of Tobit chapter 13. All right, this is the book of Tobit chapter 13, verse 3. Confess him, all right, confess Yahweh Bashim Shai before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he have scattered you among them. All right. So our people being scattered among these Gentiles, these actual other nations, what did they become? They became Gentiles, man. That's why the Apostle Paul, all right, wrote this. That's why he wrote that in First Corinthians. That's why he wrote this, man. This is First Corinthians 12 and 2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away unto dumb idols, even as you were led. All right. And when did we mainly start getting led, you know, to Gentiles? When you go into the era of the Greeks and Romans, all right. When did we mainly start being led unto dumb idols, man? When was it pretty much forced on our people, all right, to be led into these dumb idols? Now, let's go on to the history, man. Let's get the book of First Maccabees. So you gotta understand how pretty much when you go into the times of Maccabees, you had wicked Jake that was in leadership. You know, mainly Jason. You know, who was the son of who was the brother of Ananias. Ananias was a righteous priest. You know, but Jason, he wanted the priesthood because the high priest, you know, was pretty much like a world ambassador, all right, for Israel. You know, everyone that came to Israel, they had to go by, you know, when kings and nobilities and everyone wanted to come through Israel, you know, you had to go through the high priest. So the high priest was like a world ambassador. And see, Jake, you had wicked Jake that coveted that office because they wanted to rule Israel like the heathens ruled over their people. You know, they wanted to be catered to. So you had Jason, all right, the wicked priest who pretty much sold Jake out, all right, to the Greeks, man. And we're going to get that account. You know, we're just going to touch and go on some history, man. So when you get the book of Second Maccabees, if you brothers, you know, and you sisters have a question about anything, you know, just ask in the comment board. We'll get into it. You know, I'm gonna try to keep it concise, you know, all together, try to walk it down chronologically. But when you go into Second Maccabees, let's get the account. When you go to Second Maccabees 4 and 7, it says, but after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Ananias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 303 score talents of silver and another revenue 80 talents. So you had Jake trying to buy the high priest office, man. You see, this is what was going on. And it says, besides this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place of exercise and for the training up of the youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. You see, by the name of Antiochians, there's no different than being called Americans. Antiochus was nothing but a Greek king, you know, a Edomite Greek king, you know, like you call yourself American after Amerigo Vespucci, which was an Italian map maker, you know, African American, Leo Scipio Africanus, man, who was a Roman general in the Punic Wars, an Edomite Roman general. So just as they was calling themselves Antiochians, it was no different than we was calling ourselves Americans or African Americans, man. After Edomites, man, It's the same thing, you know. There's nothing new under the sun. This is just a more modern time because we start calling that title African Americans put on us after what we was conquered. You see, after the transatlantic slave trade, when we was conquered, then that term started being thrown around. You know, so it's nothing different. Now let's get another one, and then we're gonna deal with what was going on with during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, man. All right, this is the second book of Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 1. It says, "Not long after this, the king sent an old man to Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of the Most High." You see, so our people was being turned out, man, and this is probably um close to it's a little bit over 200 years, before you get into the time of Cornelius, man. This is happening, close to 200 years, a little bit over 200 years before you get into the time of Cornelius, man. So what condition you think, all right, the offspring of these Israelites is being turned out? What condition you think, all right, the offspring is, man? You talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations later, man. You know? And it says, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, defenders of strangers, as they did desire, that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circle of the holy places, and besides that, brought in things that were not lawful. The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. It was unlawful to even be called a Jew, man. To keep the Sabbath days, to keep the ancient feasts, man. All right. You had a bulk of our people that was turned out. Now you had the Maccabean revolt, in which that's where you get the Hasmonean dynasty. All right, that will come out of that, where you had some Levites started with Mattathias, with his sons Judas, Jonathan, Simon. All right, and what did they do, man? They pretty much fought, all right, to keep the ways of our forefathers, man. And the Most High was with them, and they was able to gain some, sovereignty, during that time. And that's where you get the Hasmonean dynasty. But the Hasmonean dynasty was ended by the Romans. But before we get to that, now what we just read in Maccabees, the second Maccabees, the 4th chapter and 6th chapter, that was going on during Antiochus Epiphanes. Now, during that time, Rome was becoming a superpower, and pretty much they was flexing, and they was starting to absorb the Greek Empire. All right, and this is like in 163, 164, 167 BC. All right, so this is going to like 167, close to 170 years before Yahweh Shah was even born. Rome had started to become a superpower in the earth. Now, I know you brothers, you might be familiar with that story about the line in the sand. Now, what happened was you had Antiochus Epiphanes. Pretty much what he started doing was he started conquering, you know, Greek, other Greek territories, of these other Greek kingdoms. Because remember, the Greek Empire after Alexander was split up, all right, and divided, amongst 4 lines, all right, of Edomite generals. You had the Seleucid, you had Cassandra, you had Ptolemy, and you had the Seleucid Empire. All right, so it was split up 4 ways, and now the Seleucid Empire, you had Antiochus, or some brothers might call him Antiochus, Epiphanes, and he started to absorb, to pretty much start expanding his empire into the other, you know, empires of the generals, other generals, So he was getting to the point where he was getting carried away with himself. So Rome intervened. All right, Rome intervened, and that's when you get the circle in the sand. Now we're gonna read a little bit of that account, just to have some understanding of their history. It says the place was Eleusis, a suburb of Alexander, Egypt. The king, humiliated by this circle in the sand, was Antiochus Epiphanes, the so-called great anti-Messiah, and the ambassador who so bravely drew the circle came onto the scene on the orders of the Roman Senate. By Rome, said by now, Rome yielded so much power in the ancient Greek kingdom that everyone feared them. They showed the beginnings of a superpower, appointed themselves as the policemen of the world, sound familiar? With the skills of an ancient UN. You see that? Whatever the complaint, you could appeal to Rome for help. And if you found favor with the sentence, they would speak, and the rest of Greek Empire would obey, and that included Epiphanes. All right. So Rome was becoming a superpower, and you could appeal to Rome, which we're gonna get that. Remember that little part about appealing to Rome. So now let's fast forward. Let's jump up. Now Rome was becoming a superpower then, but now that about 100 years later, what you had with Pompey. All right, I know you brothers should be familiar with Pompey. Now, what you had during the time of Pompey, you had Julius Caesar, you had Pompey, and then you had Marcus Crassus, and they called it the first triumph of Rome. All right, Julius Caesar was like the figurehead. Marcus Crassus, he was super rich, and then you had Pompey, who was the military genius. All right, he was known for his conquering and his campaigns. All right, as a military general. So what you had during the end of the Hasmonean dynasty, you had Jake pretty much infighting over leadership of the Hasmonean dynasty. So I'm gonna get this account. Now this is from uh, the Nelson Study Bible. All right. Now this is a section called Between the Testament, and it pretty much, gives the backdrops on what was going on from the time of Malachi. All right, during the Persian Empire, during the time of the Greeks, leading all up to the Roman Empire. Going into the Book of Matthew. Now, matter of fact, I'm gonna get the scripture first, then I'm gonna get that account because Yahushua spoke on it, pretty much. Now, when you get the Book of Matthew, chapter 11, I pray it's making sense, for you brothers and you few sisters. This is Matthew 11 and 12. It says, "And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force." Now, what is Yahushua speaking of? You gotta go back into the history. Now, this is Between the Testaments, dealing with the Romans. It says when Pompey suspected Aristobulus of planning to rebel against Rome, he besieged Jerusalem. Now, Aristobulus, he was Jake, and him and his brother, was pretty much, infighting about, rulership of the Hasmonean dynasty. And you had Pompey, he didn't trust Aristobulus, and he thought he was gonna plan a rebellion. See, Jake was known for rebellion, man. And Jake, if the Lord was with Jake, then he didn't know Jake could be a problem. You see? And it says he besieged Jerusalem. After 3 months, he breached the fortifications, entered the city, and reportedly murdered 12,000 Jews. And what Yahweh shall say? All right, the kingdom of heaven suffering violence, and the violent take it by force, man. So Pompey took Judea by force. You see? And it says, and reportedly murdered 12,000 Jews. Pompey and his officers entered the Holy of Holies in the temple, but he did not touch its costly furnishings and allowed temple worship to continue. Jerusalem, however, was made tributary to the Romans, and the last vestige of Jewish independence, all right, which the independence of the Jews and no such thing as Jewish, all right, the last vestige of Jew independence was removed, all right. So that's when what Judea became what a tributary, all right, and that happened and that was in 63 BC. So there was like 67 years, before Yahweh Shah was born, that happened. And then by the time you get to the time of Cornelius, you're talking about another 40, 50 years. All right, over 100 some years by the time you get to Cornelius, So it ain't far-fetched, all right, that Jake was intermingled within the Roman Empire, and Jake would rise through the ranks, man. Jake eventually became emperor of Rome, man. So how is it hard to fathom, Jake being a centurion in Rome? You know what I'm saying? So, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna go ahead and play a little bit of the video. Stop it. Then we're gonna get some more precepts. You see? Get the video. All right, so I found this video dealing with the Roman centurions, and if you brothers, even if you few sisters, you into history documentaries. This is a pretty good channel. It's called Kings and Generals. This channel here called Kings and Generals. They got some pretty good they cover a lot of different areas of history. A lot of quick 19, 15-minute videos. They pretty much tap into a lot of history. But they did a little segment with the centurions. I want to get it. I found a few things interesting, that I thought would edify. All right. Yeah. Yeah, Jake gonna rise up, Brother put up GMS, he would not tear it. Lord Austin, United States Secretary of Defense. You see? Jake gonna rise up. You'll be an idiot not to use Jake. You'd be a damn fool not to utilize Jake. But yeah, let's play a little bit of this, and we'll get to it.
The vast military of Rome was perhaps the greatest war machine in the ancient world. Though a Roman army's general or emperor was almost always the most visible figure when victory in battle against the enemy was achieved. The well-oiled gears of Rome's legions were instead the revered, illustrious, and notorious centurions. In this video, in our Armies and Tactics series, we will examine this most iconic figure in the history of Rome, who the centurion were, what equipment they used, and how they operated to craft the legions into antiquity's most rigorously disciplined military force.
Shout out to Hearts of Iron 4 and Paradox Interactive for sponsoring this video. Hearts of Iron 4 is one of our favourite strategy games, and you can try it for free for a limited time ending on the 1st of March, so download the game by clicking the link in the description. This game offers a total strategic war on land, air and sea in a World War II setting. Assume control of any historical nation in a single campaign, or in both competitive and cooperative cross-platform multiplayer for up to 32 players. We've played
in the Republican period, the only qualifications necessary for a would-be centurion were martial, bravery, strength, and leadership in battle.
So you heard that, and play it again. It gives you only requirements for being a centurion. All right? Let me play it again.
In the Republican period, the only qualifications necessary for a would-be centurion were martial, bravery, strength, and leadership in battle. Though these were still core values.
All right? So bravery, strength, leadership, all right, and battles. You know, it had nothing to do with nationality. All right? Rome didn't give a damn. Rome was like, look, you're going to get down or lay down. You're going to join us, or we're going to run through you. Your choice. All right? And a lot of these people that the Romans conquered, all right, became part of the military. And the military was a lucrative business, man, because you will get to, split the spoils. That's why Julius Caesar, was so popular, because his military became rich under him, man. His men, those legions became, well-to-do, under Julius Caesar. That's why, they didn't, care about what the Senate was talking about, because you would have to get permission from the Senate, to go on a military campaign. But with Julius Caesar, he was letting those men get lands, all right? They was getting women, they was getting livestock. So they were like, shit, we just gonna go wherever Julius say go. Like, the hell with the Senate, If Julius said go here, they would move. And that's why when Julius came back, they killed him, because he had got powerful, man. In Rome, they didn't want one man to be, that powerful. So, but yeah, you see, the credentials of being a centurion had nothing to do, all right, with your race, man. Let it play on.
Centurions of the Principate increasingly had to come with other qualities that would make them a more well-rounded officer. A centurion had to be, in almost all respects, an exemplary soldier, possessing a formidable stature, skill with weaponry, and strength with which to lead from the front, inspiring the men under his command.
Now, who are the best athletes, on the planet? You see? Who are the best athletes? So who would be, the best, all right, special forces, man? All right, it's going to be Jake.
Moreover, the man was expected to be temperate and measured, vigilant, and ready to execute any order without questions. To his troops, the centurion needed to be a notoriously strict disciplinarian when necessary, exercising and drilling his centurion regularly, ensuring that their uniforms and weaponry were in top shape for parade and the battleground. In the early imperial period, it was becoming more and more crucial for the centurions to take on some administrative functions, and therefore literacy became a desirable skill.
You see that? So the Romans, for the centurions, literacy became a desirable skill. You see? So they was educating and reading. See, in the ancient world, everybody didn't know how to read. Like, that was a trait of nobility, of someone, that was of the middle upper class, or the well-to-do, to the higher ups. Everybody didn't know how to read, So I thought that interesting too, that the centurions, was heavy into literature.
This increasing requirement meant that often centurions were recruited more and more from the upper tier of society, making a class that combined military virtues and administrative know-how. With these qualities, a man became a Roman centurion through two streams: promotion, or recommendation. The former was a relatively simple process through which a 30-plus-year-old legionary with a long and spotless service record was promoted to the position outright. More fortunate, well-connected Romans could take the other road, direct appointment to the prestigious centurionate from civilian life through the intervention of an influential patron.
So mostly, all right, through promotion, Jake, came from the bottom. All right, it was probably mostly Jake that came, to the rank of centurion from what promotion, man? Just being a standout, Roman soldier. You see? And then, there's a lot of Edomites that politic their way, into that position. Now, you probably had, some Jakes that was well to do, that were politicking then, but all right, most of the Jakes that got to that position, all right, Jake just, was the cream of the crop and rose to the top, man,
The youngest known beneficiary of such a display of patronage was an 18-year-old equestrian candidate from a wealthy family. How happy said centurion's underlings must have been about serving under him can only be imagined. However, the fact that centurions were all at least formally appointed by the emperor may have shut down the discontent. The aspiring soldier was only officially invested with his centurion rank during a ceremony that took place on an auspicious military holiday. A platform would be constructed in the Principia of a legion's fortress or camp. In the presence of the finely clad soldiers, the soon-to-be centurion was presented with a document containing an imperial edict of appointment and with his disciplinary vine staff. After their elevation, centurions would gradually rise in seniority within their cohort, commanding centuries of troops with higher status, until they eventually led the most senior centuria, and therefore the entire cohort. The vast majority of centurions did not advance beyond this point. However, those who did could be promoted even further, to the rank of primi ordinis, exercising command within the legion's exalted first cohort and its double-strength centuries, and taking up staff officer roles. This kind of promotion initially took the form of the Hastatus posterior rank of the first cohort, and then after 4 more promotions, an extremely well-connected, lucky, and competent soldier might rise to the rank of primus pilus. Through this position,
Now, so you understand how pretty much, the Roman military, dealt with their rank, all right? But you had a lot of Jake, that was rising up in the rank, and even what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fast forward because I want to get to this part, and then we're gonna get into the scriptures. You see, matter of fact, there's one. I think that's in let me see. Wait 1 second. But even because Yahushua was in the midst of this, like you gotta understand, like this is a reality. You can read the scriptures and think, they just are isolated events, in history. But no, this is reality. Like real life was going on. Like when Yahushua was on the scene, all right, real life, was going on. Things existed. It wasn't just everybody on earth was around Yahushua. Like you had life going on. You had Yahushua. He was doing this thing amongst, Jake. You see those miracles and all those things, but you had life going on outside it, like existence. The Roman Empire was vast. Judea was just a small little, piece of the Roman Empire. There was a lot of things going on. So I'm gonna play this clip. I'm gonna fast forward. I'm gonna get another part, and then we're gonna get an account. I'm gonna go to. I'm saying you can watch the whole video. All right, yep. Start here, play a few minutes of this, and then we'll get into the counts of the scriptures. You know.
The period began in 38 BC. During a battle in Hispania, a veteran primus pilus known as
now pretty much they're gonna go into, you know, the punishments of why a little more.
Veteran primus
trip.
Lead from the front mentality into the grinding drudgery of regular life on campaign. If the troops were assigned to dig trenches or wells, construct camps or fortresses, centurions would directly supervise them and would often engage in the process with their soldiers, in addition to functioning as a keen-eyed overseer. Yet, this image of the centurion as an almost untouchable figure who solely dispensed justice needs to be tempered. Because they were entrusted with such power, men of the centurion were also punished incredibly harshly if they were to fail in their duties, possibly even more so than the average soldier. A stark case of this occurred just before the imperial period began in 38 BC. During a battle in Hispania, a veteran primus pilus known as Virbilius lost his nerve and fled the field. When able, the local Roman governor made an example of the centurion by ordering him to be beaten to death with clubs by the men whose lives his cowardice had endangered. Disciplining troops was not the only matter with which centurions were burdened. The Roman centurion was an elite soldier, often employed for crucial commando and other intelligence-gathering missions in the field or at home. These could include scouting an enemy force, infiltrating hostile cities, acting as a trusted secret courier for a high noble, or assassinating figures who were too prominent to murder openly. In their administrative function, centurions were responsible for maintaining the logistical supply line for the army, supervising the collection of food, armor, weaponry, and other materiel from various contractors. Such figures of authority also had police and sometimes even judicial roles in keeping the peace. Important prisoners would be escorted by centurions, such as St. Paul, who was brought to the Antonia fortress in Jerusalem, protected from the violent mobs of the city by a centurion. Moreover, they commanded troops who were sent to hunt down bandits and brigands in the countryside, and oversaw the arrest and execution of petty criminals. In such situations, legal authority was delegated to the contingent centurion, who would come to a verdict. A couple of legal cases recorded on documents in Egypt also suggest that centurions exercised informal but swift and effective de facto authority on such minutiae as assaults, theft, tax collection, and even remedying and punishing criminal activities of other administrators. These duties of bringing the guilty to justice, carrying out searches, and providing protection for litigants who might otherwise face danger from high-status accused individuals gave the local centurion.
So you see centurions, you know, they had a high office, you know, within the Roman Empire. You know, they was even over the tax collector. So you had Matthew, all right, who was you know, known to be a tax collector. He would have to answer to a centurion. You see, Cornelius wasn't no, you know, he wasn't no ranking dink.
A military authority which could countermand provincial government if required. In times of civil war, retaining the loyalty of legionary formations was really a matter of securing the loyalty of that particular legion's many centurions, especially the primi ordines of the first cohort. It would often be the influence of these mid-level officers which might tip the balance as to which candidate the legion would granted swords. The emperors of Rome and their advisors were fully aware of the influence centurions possessed, and the good ones were always keen to keep them happy. Augustus's friend, the brilliant general Agrippa, advised him to reserve legal cases involving the possibility of a centurion receiving severe punishment to his own personal judgment. Such figures, it was deemed, were too revered and important to be left to local trial when accused of a crime. For taking on all of these responsibilities and dangers, centurions were extremely well rewarded, materially and otherwise.
And this is the point I want to harp on, and then we're going to get into some precepts, dealing with the financial status, the centurion.
Compared to the vast majority of their comrades in the legions, and even those in the infamous Praetorian Guard. For their pay, it has been estimated that baseline centurions received about 15 times that of a regular legionary, and rather surprisingly, 5 times more than one of the notoriously money-obsessed Praetorian Guardsmen. Higher-tier centurion officers, such as the primus pillars of the legion, earned a staggering 60 times the cash of a regular soldier, but regular pay wasn't the only income such men received. Much like their enlisted brethren, but to a far more extreme degree, centurions came to expect periodic financial bonuses called donatives on special occasions, such as the celebration of a great victory or the accession of a new.
People with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this Chrome extension. But no, by all means, go ahead, skip the ad, save a few seconds.
New Emperor. It was necessary to give centurions vast amounts of money on these occasions because their loyalty was so valuable, and a generous gift would go a long way towards showing the centurion where his allegiance was best placed in a time of struggle. In their armor, weaponry, and clothing.
So you see, centurions were well off, man. It was well to do. They was well, taken care of, and that makes these accounts. All right, we can get these accounts. It makes them make more sense. All right, so let's get this account in the book of Luke. Let me get the scriptures back up. And get this account in the book of Luke. All right, when you get the book of Luke, chapter 7. All right, now this is the book of Luke, chapter 7, verse 1. It says, now when he, which is Yahweh Shai, had ended all his sayings in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. Now Capernaum, there was, the upper echelon of Jake, that was in Capernaum. It says, and a certain centurion servant who was dear unto him was sick and ready to die. And when he had heard of Yahushua, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Yahushua, they brought him instantly, saying that he was worthy, all right, that he was worthy for whom he should do this. So what did you have? You had a centurion, a servant of a centurion, which had to be a Jake, coming to Yahushua, asking for what? A healing, which means what? Did he believe? You see? Meaning that he believed, man. All right? Yahushua was in the midst of all this. All the history went through. Yahushua was in these times. He was in the middle of it, man. These things will actually happen. Life was happening. You see? Jake wasn't just among the heathen, just in the tent somewhere, And it says, and when they came to Yahushua, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this, for he loveth our nation, and he have built us a synagogue. And he's talking about the centurion. You see? And why was the centurion able to help so much? Because they was getting paid. They had a high offer. There was a high rank. They was well taken care of. All right. Their allegiance was important, all right, to the nobility and the leadership and the government of Rome. So he, all right, built a synagogue, man. All right, for Jake. And it says, then Yahushua went with them And when he was now, it said, when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I'm not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. And you see the humility? You see? It says, wherefore, neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee. Yeah, see, Jake was hearing about Yahushua, and remember, the centurions, all right, they had to learn literature, so he was probably reading some things, all right, and he was believing, well well he understood. Like, damn, once you understand we understand who we are and how far we feel. I remember when I first came into the ministry, just on the other side of the camp, just listening to videos, man. Just listen to the brothers at the camp down here. And I felt so convicted, because that same year that I started listening, coming out to camp and listening to brothers, I had a Christmas party and everything, man. I had felt so convicted, and so unworthy once you start finding out the truth and the truth about these holidays and all these things, you'd be crushed. All right. So this centurion, like, I ain't even worthy for you to come to my house, you know. But he believed though. You see? It said, wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. All right. And this is the point. For I also am a man set under authority. See, he was a centurion. And we just read the rank that centurions had. So he understood authority. It says, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, go, and he goeth, and to another, come, and he cometh, and to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. Oh, it's like it. So going down, it says, when Yahushua heard these things, he marveled at him and turned him about and said unto the people that follow him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. You see? And what was he saying? Even those that knew that they was Israelites didn't have this type of faith, man. You see? So this was a centurion, but this centurion is not talked about like Cornelius, man. But this is a centurion in the Roman Empire. He's no different than Cornelius. They just didn't give his name. You see? I believe it's an account where they do give his name, but this centurion is not, it's not up for debate. But then when it comes to Cornelius, it's a huge issue, man. But it's the same thing, man. It's a centurion that believed. It was a Jake centurion that believed, man. That's what Cornelius was. He was a Roman, an Israelite, who was a Roman citizen that believed. Now, let's go to the book of Acts, all right, and deal a little bit with, the story of Cornelius. All right. So when you go to the book of Acts, chapter 10, all right, verse 1, it said, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man and one that feared the Most High with all his house. Come on, man. That's enough right there. Come on, man. Ain't no other nation doing this, man. It's in Jake to fear Yahweh Shema Shah. Matter of fact, I think we brought that's in let's get that in Sirach. Now when you go to I believe it's one yep. There's the book of Sirach 1:14 said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb. It was created with the faithful in the womb. You see? So a devout man, one that feared the Most High with all his house, all right? And you keep reading on, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to the Most High always. He prayed to the Most High always. And he said he gave much alms. Why? Because the centurions was well to do. That's why they was giving much alms. He had it. You see? And he was coming in for the church, man. It says he saw in a vision evidently about the 9th hour, all right, of the day, an angel of the Most High coming to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked up on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thy alms are come up for memorial before the Most High. So you mean to tell me another nation, all right, has access to the throne of Yahweh Shema Shai through their prayers? You see, that's what's being said. So you can't just say anything, man. All right. There's some things you disagree with the doctrine, and okay. But then when you say this, man, you saying a lot of things regarding the heathen, man. Now Cornelius, all right, the angel's telling him, look, thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial of the Most High. Now, what does the scripture say about, all right, the when you go to Proverbs, all right, 15 and 29. All right, so you go to Proverbs 15 and 29. All right, Proverbs 15 and 29. All right, it says, The Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai is far from the wicked, but he heareth the prayer of the righteous. He heareth the prayer of the righteous. You know? And who is that, man? That's Jake. No other nation is the Lord gonna give access to his throne, man. Where they can give alms and pray and it be acceptable, man. Because Cornelius believed. He said him and his household feared, all right, the Most High, man. You see? And what was opened up to him? That salvation, the promise. And you had to be of their lineage to partake in that promise. You see that? Now, let's get another one. I believe that's 1 Peter 3. I'll say 1 Peter 3 and all right, this is 1 Peter 3 and 12. Said, For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers, but the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. You see? So his ear was open to the prayers of Cornelius. You know? You can't say that this man was something other, all right, than the Israelite, man. You see? That's giving away the covenant. There ain't no openings in the covenant, man. All right? It's only for one nation, one people. So let's go back to the account. Yep, the brother just put, like the elder brother, Elder Kazak just put Psalm 34 and 15 said, The eyes of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry, man. You can't get around it. You see? This is Psalm 22 And 23 it said, ye that fear the Lord, praise him, all ye seed of Jacob, glorify him, and fear him, all ye seed of Israel. All you seed of Israel is a lineage. All right. And that's from Brother El Kazak, the end, my friend. You see? And that's a clear cut. All you seed of Israel. So just off this alone, when you go back to the book of Acts, just off that alone, the Most High, all right, is accepting. You see that? It says, this Acts 10:4 says, and when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thy arms are come up for a memorial before the Most High. You see, so it was accepted, just like Cain and Abel. Abel's sacrifice was accepted. Cain's was rejected, man. But Jake is trying to tell you that Cain's sacrifice is acceptable now. Jake is trying to rewrite everything. You can say one thing and it destroys the rest of the Bible. You know, you can make, that's why scripture say a little leavening the whole lump, man. You can say one thing off and it destroy what the rest of the Bible is saying, man, within your doctrine, man. Absolutely not, man. You know? And when you go into Acts, let's get another account in Acts. All right, when you get Acts in the 16th chapter. Now, this is when all right. Now, this is Acts. I started at 14 just to read. But this is the book of Acts, chapter 16, verse 14. It says, and a certain woman named Lydia, all right, a seller of purple, all right, so this was a sister, all right, they believed, man, all right, she was a Roman citizen, a seller of purple, so she was on, all right, balling, but she was a believer, all right. Jake was in the Roman Empire living, man, just like we in America living. You know, you got brothers there's in garments on the highways and byways, and if you've seen what kind of cars they drove and what type of houses they stayed in, you know, Jake living in Rome, man. But Jake believed. You know, you got people come from all, you know, different aspects of life. But just like ancient Rome, all right, Jake living, Jake got different positions, but Jake believed. You see? Jake didn't come up knowing nothing about being an Israelite. All right? But what happened? The word went forth and Jake was converted. It's the same thing going on now, man. All right? It says, in a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshiped the Most High, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened. You see? This is a Roman citizen, but she's an Israelite through lineage. All right? Whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And when she was baptized and her household, she besought us, saying, if you have judged me to be beautiful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gains by soothsaying. Yeah, so yeah, like a little witch, you know, following the apostles. And said the same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. Yeah, with that demon on them, man. All right, because those demons know the spirits, you know. That's why that demon told that one guy, he like, look, Yahweh Shai, I know, Paul, I know, but who are you? You know, and they whooped him out of his clothes. You see? Well, these demons know, all right, those spirits, man. And she pretty much All right, that demon was on to say that, look, these are the servants of the Most High, which show unto us the way of salvation. Verse 18, and this day, and it says, and this did she many days, but Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Yahweh Hamashiach to come out of her, and he came out the same hour. So Paul exorcised that demon off, the woman that was following them, man. Verse 19, it says, and when her master saw this, that the hope of their gains was gone, because they was making money, off this demon-possessed woman, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers and brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men, being Jews, all right, do exceedingly trouble our city and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. All right. So all this is happening in the midst of what? Romans. But you had a lot of those Romans that was Israelites. You see? Verse 22, and the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer. All right. So this is a Roman prison. All right. Roman jailers. But we're going to come to find that this jailer is what? Jake. You see? Charging the jailer to keep them safely, who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in stocks. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praise unto the Most High, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundation of the prison was shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands was loose. And the keeper of the prison, awakening out of sleep and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had fled. Yeah, because just as we read earlier, you remember that centurion, that pretty much ran off from the battle. The men that he ran off from, they allowed those men to beat him to death, with clubs. You see? Because, you have particular positions in Rome. Look, if you fail, all right, hey, you'll be to the disposal of the higher ups, man. And in Rome like making examples, man. So he was finna off himself. Because he knew if those prisoners escaped on his watch, you see, he was through. You see? But when you read verse 28, it said, but Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, do thyself no harm, for we are all here. And it says, then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? Yeah, he seen the power and he believed, And it says, and they say, believe on the Lord, Yahweh Hamashiach. Oh, Salaki. And thou shalt be saved and thy house. And they spake unto him the word of the Lord and to all that were in the house. And he took them the same hour of the night and washed their stripes and were baptized, he and all his straightway. So just as the house of Cornelius, was allotted for salvation, the house of the jailer was allotted for salvation. And he was all what? Roman citizens, man. He was all Roman citizens. And then you even go down. All right. Now this is I'm gonna keep reading. It says, and they spake unto him, this is verse 32, and they spake unto him the word of the Lord to all that were in his house, and he took them the same hour of the night and washed their stripes and was baptized, he and all his straightway. And when he had brought them into his house, he said, meet before them and rejoice, believing in the Most High with all his house. And when it was day, the magistrate sent sergeants, saying, let those men go. And the keeper of the prison told this Paul, and the keeper of the prison told this, saying to Paul, the magistrates have sent to let you go. Now therefore depart go in peace. But Paul said unto them, they have beaten us openly uncondemned, being Romans, and this is Apostle Paul talking, all right, about what, man? Being Romans, and have cast us into prison, all right, and now they thrust us out privately. Nay, verily, but let them come themselves and fetch us out. So you had Apostle Paul doing what? He was playing his Roman card, all right. Remember, we read earlier how, you know, what the Romans did was they would conquer, they would conquer, all right, and the people that they would conquer, they would let them get Roman citizenship, so they will feel included within the empire, but they were still subjugated to tribute, you know, and to pretty much, a lot of them served in the Roman military, or they was beneficial to Rome in some type of way, you know. So they was able to appeal. All right, they Apostle Paul was able to play their Roman card. Now the Apostle Paul was a Roman, you know. So how is it so far fetched of Cornelius being an Israelite? You see, verse 38 says, and the surgeons told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared when they heard that they were Romans. Talking about the Apostle Paul, you know? All right, because it was a certain way that you had to handle the Roman, man. You see? So it's like these American embassies everywhere. You can play your American card in certain situations, man. You know? So I'll probably end it there. It's a lot, we can go into, dealing with that history, and, it's a lot to go into. But I ain't gonna prolong it. The point was made at the end of the day. All right, the Cornelius story is our story. All right, there's no difference between being called a Roman and being called an American. That has nothing to do, all right, with our nationality, man. You see, it has nothing to do with our nationality, man. So, Lord will. All right. Matter of fact, Bible Shuffle. I get it. I end it there. It just popped up on my head. I end it here. This is Second Ezra 2, and all right, this Second Ezra 2 and 34. And it says, and therefore I say unto you, O ye heathen, that hear and understand, look for your shepherd, he shall give you everlasting rest, for he is nigh at hand that shall come in the end of the world. O ye heathen that hear and understand. All right. Israelite foreigners that was converted. All right. That understood the gospel, that believed. You see, look for your shepherd, Yahweh Shai, because he is what? He is nigh to come, and he shall give us everlasting rest. All right, that shall come at the end of the world, and this is the time that we in now, man. So Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters was edified. I just wanted to cover that, go into that history, make sure we have a good understanding of what's going on, man, so we don't be, swayed with every wind of doctrine. All right, we understand fully what we believe, man, and it's all through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, So till next time, say Shalom, Kwam Yashala, Abba Ball, DTA soon.